Okay, I was just sitting here kind of thinking about like what video topics I need to talk about, what I need to address, what I need to talk about, and it's really difficult keeping up with like the narrative sometimes. Like again, I don't put a lot of time and effort into like looking into gaming stuff anymore because I don't really care. But there is a big thing that does need to be talked about, right? It's a repeat of what happened last year, right? Where everybody threw their hands up into the air and tried to say like, "Oh, this direct, this June 2023 E3 direct, this was the last Nintendo direct ever. Oh, this is the direct song, the Nintendo Swan song. They're gonna release Tears of the Kingdom on the next Zelda game on the next console. Like they're gonna port it over. The Switch is over. Like they were very adamant about that mindset, and of course it was ridiculous. Of course it was true. I addressed that. And what happened? We got a Nintendo Direct in September, in March the following year, and now in June. We got several Nintendo Directs since that old Direct, and now we're seeing the same thing happen. Like, oh, this was the last Nintendo Direct ever. Guarantee you that's not true. Like at the very least, we're gonna get one in September, right? We're gonna get we're gonna get more information on Echoes of Wisdom and Brothership and maybe Metroid Prime 4. We'll get a trailer for that. Metroid Prime 2 HD can come out of nowhere, right? Like I don't understand the mindset that people are in where they're so adamant that like Nintendo Switch has just had its final Nintendo Direct because there's no indication that's happening. And if anything, considering the sheer length of time it's going to be until like the Switch 2 gets announced, gets revealed and then released, like I think it's going to be another year at the very least. The end of 2025. So of course, like we're going to have lots more Nintendo Directs following that. They're going to have their own Nintendo Switch like a 2 launch event. They're going to have like a dedicated showings for those games, but for that console, but I do think we are going to continue getting Nintendo Switch games long after the next console comes out because the console is just too successful. It's not going to go away overnight. People religiously have this mindset that people are just going to drop the Switch immediately after the next thing comes out, but that is simply not going to happen, right? It's going to remain very relevant for a very long time and will continue receiving releases for a very long time is my honest, genuine opinion on it. So on that. So like when I see people like make these statements that like, oh, this was a good direct, but it was the last Nintendo Switch direct ever, I just kind of throw my head back and laugh because it is so out of touch with reality. I told you that the Switch would outsell the PS2. Did anybody listen to me? No. I told you that like the last several Nintendo Directs would not be the final Nintendo Switch Directs, but did you listen to me? No. And now, like where we're at now, like with all these games coming out, like I'm seeing so many people cope, with claims that like, oh, Metroid Prime 4 is obviously cross-gen. There's no way that footage was running on a Switch. By the way, can we stop pretending that the Switch is some underpowered piece of hardware because it's running all these games just fine. You really need to stop this because there's nothing coming out on PlayStation, PC, or Xbox that could not run on Switch. Hogwarts Legacy was ported, Doom Eternal was ported. I'm sure like the Dark Ages could be ported no problem. So again, why exactly are you people so adamant about like the hardware? Is it because you have nothing else? Like you certainly can't talk about the games. Like all you can do right now is bleat about like how Elden Ring has like, oh, it's so hard, guys. Like, come on. Like, do you have any games at all to talk about? Do you have anything like real? Like you just don't. It is like the long and short of it. And so like these people have to like arbitrarily just make weird stuff up about Nintendo, right? Like, oh, nothing more is going to come out on the Switch after this next batch of releases. We've been hearing this for years, right? Oh, all the games that are coming are lower budget, right? Like, oh, Echoes of Wisdom, oh, that's a lower budget game. Oh, Brothership, that's a lower budget game. Like, Pokemon Legends EA, what's that? Metroid Prime 4, ooh, Metroid is niche. Like, they're doing everything they possibly can to kind of avoid addressing the elephant in the room. Is that, like, Nintendo is doing exceedingly well right now, and there's really nothing that anybody can do to stop what's coming, right? They're not going to destroy the Switch. They're not going to dismantle the Nintendo empire. It's really a thing that can't be stopped at this stage. And you're still seeing people in denial about that. You're still seeing people in denial that like Nintendo has won the console war and they're not going anywhere and they're not ever going to be put into like a position of weakness ever again. Like again, what exactly is everyone looking forward to on on other platforms, right? Like it'll be really interesting seeing like what will happen when like Elden Ring gets ported to Switch or something. Because I'm getting a lot of comments like recently that like, oh, Elden Ring can't run on Switch. It's modders have already got it up and running on the platform, right? So it's clearly doable, but we're still seeing people like up in arms about that, right? Pretending it's not real, like desperately just refusing to acknowledge reality. It's it's the same thing we've always seen, right? We saw this in the Wii U era, the 3DS era, the DS and the Wii era. It's just like this kind of refusal to acknowledge that Nintendo is on top, right? And it feels like it's been getting worse and more delusional over time. But more and more, I'm seeing more and more people like call this out for what it is, and I don't know where how these rumors are going to collapse. Like to me, it just seems like nobody's listening to these personalities anymore. And honestly, I think that is the best thing that Nintendo fans could possibly do.